Good afternoon, everyone. Quick sound check. Can you hear me loud and clear? How you doing, Coach Paul?
Check. Good.
Right? I thought we were all waiting for the news tomorrow.
Yeah, funny how that happened.
Yeah,
So,
right.
day, I could have, saved my day.
We're getting
How
choppy.
about you?
Give me 1 second on your audio. They're saying it's choppy. I just turned you down a little bit. Let's see if that's better.
Checking 1, 2, 3.
Let's see if Coach Paul's better now. They said your audio's cracking up a little bit,
Checking.
Paul. If you want to try leaving and coming back, and then we'll see it from there.
All right.
All right, thanks.
I'll do that.
All right, but welcome everyone to At the Buzzer. While Coach Paul leaves and comes back, we'll go into our introduction. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul, and the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but I think we both believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I am Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year now. Again, happy birthday to TopstepTV. It's crazy that we've been doing this for a year. Time goes by really quick, especially when you're having fun. But hopefully throughout this past year, we've been somewhat helpful in your trading journey, right? If there's anything that you've learned from us as traders, if you think you've grown over the past year yourself, I know I definitely have. Just having to be a coach and wanting to be on point with what we're talking about for the markets. It's kind of good to reflect over the last year or so. I've been trading for the last 11 years, but never really been in this position to be looked at as a guide, hopefully, for traders. And of course, we are all on our own separate journeys, but it's been a really awesome experience so far. All right, so Coach Paul is back. Let's see how that audio sounds now. You could. Yeah.
Don't want to.
Let's see. Let's get an audio check on Coach Paul again.
Okay, checking 1, 2, 3. Checking.
They're saying it's still bad, still choppy. What is going on here? Hold on a second, Coach. Let's try this. Go ahead if you can talk one more time.
Okay, I'm checking 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. 1 year of Topstep TV.
Let's see. Trying to turn you up here.
How about now?
Much better, they said. That's better. There we go. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll go with that.
All right, let's roll.
Let's do it. I did my introduction. That's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Coach Paul, I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I trade all different kinds of markets, not just equities. I've been in different roles. I started on the trading floor, and I've been trading off the floor for 20 years. Also a basketball coach, and I learn all the time. I'm a lifelong learner. Also been blessed to work with Coach Jay, and I've learned a lot of things from Coach Jay as it relates to volume analysis. He's one of the best, and glad to be here. Hope I can help you and become a successful trader.
I appreciate that, Coach Paul. I think I've learned tremendously over the last year working with you as well, working with all the coaches. I see Coach Vince in the chat. Shout out to Coach Hoop as well. Yeah, this is all about learning, improving, getting better with our trades, enjoying this process, whatever it brings for you. and ultimately becoming a better trader. So let's get into these markets a little bit. The top percentage movers on the day. To the downside, coming in at number 3, we have RBOB gasoline futures down 1.68%. Micro Ethereum futures down 3.55%, and micro Bitcoin futures down 3.68% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, coming in at number 3, we got platinum up 2.39%, soybean oil up 2.47%, and natural gas up 5.31% for our biggest percentage movers to the upside. For the major 4 markets, we have gold up 0.78%. We're going to talk about that one, Coach Paul. We got crude oil up 0.04%, ES up 0.3%, and the Nasdaq up 0.1%. We had some news out today. We know we were waiting for some news in the market. I think NFP is going to be the big one, but we did have jobless claims out this morning. What was expected was 230,000. What was reported was 227K. So not much of a difference from the expected number, and we didn't really see much of a market reaction to that print. And then on the oil side, we also had OPEC saying that they were going to delay the output increase for the next 2 months. We were talking about, some of that demand for oil maybe decreasing with manufacturing numbers coming down. So OPEC saying that they're not going to increase those outputs as originally planned. But let's get into the markets, Coach. Like you said, it was a very interesting day today, kind of a choppy day. Let's start with the ES, and we're going to go to a 30-minute chart. I'm going to pull up your moving averages, and if this is your first time joining us, the moving averages that we have on here, the white one is the 200, the purple is the 50, and yellow is going to be the 220 moving average. And if we can see on a 30-minute chart, Coach, for the last 2.5 days, yeah, I can barely see the yellow and the purple.
Yeah. There's nothing else needs to be said there, Coach.
Right. And when that's the case, it's overlap. The market has not chosen a direction. We are still technically in a downtrend in the, you want to call it medium time frame. We're under that 200 moving average on the 30-minute, but not a lot of decisions being made. And again, the big news of the week being tomorrow, not necessarily surprised at that either.
Coach, another thing is what can we get out of that is we're waiting for this number.
Yep.
The big money, the institutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's still really, believe it or not, we're beginning of the month. And it feels like September. We've been in it for a while. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I mean, you can't distinguish between that. It's violently unchanged as today's equities trading reflected.
For sure. What's interesting about that though, Coach, and especially in the ES, it's not that we haven't been seeing participation, right? Volume is a little bit lower. There have been some big orders getting filled in this range. And it just feels like we saw that 1,500 lot yesterday that got filled at 55.40. It feels like positioning for something now. The market is going to tell us what they're positioning for, probably as early as tomorrow. But it feels like, building up a lot of momentum before a big push in either direction. And especially the prices that we're trading at, right? ES is deciding what we're going to do at 5,500. The Nasdaq's deciding what we're going to do about 19K. Both of these markets are in kind of critical decision-making areas. Somewhat, I think, going into the rest of the year, right? What does the last 3 months of this year look like? And, I think these next 2 weeks are going to kind of dictate some of that. Of course, anything can change, and I don't even want to think out that far. We are here to day trade, but very interesting markets right now.
Yeah, it was today, even looking at that range, all this happened under the 200 bar moving average.
Yep.
I still, I made a mistake today. I traded both sides of the market and then got chopped up pretty well.
Yeah.
This market, we talk about violently unchanged. This is what it is.
Absolutely.
If you're a range bound trader, this should be a good good place for you. But yeah, I think it's all setting up for the NFP tomorrow.
Definitely.
The last NFP was what, August 2nd?
August 2nd, you had it? Okay.
Yes, I have it as August 2nd.
All right, let's see something here. So we know we have NFP coming out tomorrow. You guys all know, and we'll get back to today's trading, but Coach and I were talking before we got on here. We want to anchor a VWAP to that last NFP print, and that was August 2nd, would have been at 7:30 Central. So I'm going to anchor a VWAP there. And that's our green line on our charts now. We'll go back to today, and
we're still above it.
Still above it. Would not be surprised at a test of that tomorrow. And again, anything can happen, but it's in range. It's in a daily ATR. We're expecting probably
it's trending up.
Trending up, right. But let's see whether or not these buyers hold this. And if not, there's potentially some room down back to where we were trading in the beginning of August. Range bound day, and I want to do one more VWAP. I've been using this one a little bit more recently. I'm going to attach one more here, and we're going to find the weekly open, which is right here. And this has been, we look at it for the week, right? We've been selling off for the week, and every time we test up towards that, that's the high of our range. There's a bunch of different ways to identify what these extremes of the ranges are. Me being a volume trader, I'm going to use that anchored VWAP. And if you sold up here, you were feeling like the man when you walked through. Rest in peace, Rich Homie Quan, if anyone got that reference. But a really nice area to take a short trade. I think in the house account today, they were looking for shorts in the Nasdaq. And same thing in the Nasdaq, there was that weekly VWAP. We got short somewhere near that, and I think the stop was just a little bit too tight for what the team had it as. I think if we could set that stop a little bit higher, and we'll go to the Nasdaq when we talk about it, but we can see the rejection off of it. Again, this blue line is that 55.40 area that we had yesterday where that big buyer stepped up. And we can see, right, the market trades above it, volume lower, but then Coach, once we get that volume push below that area where that big buyer was,
it's
kind of it.
Yeah, it was it. And it held that area.
Yeah, it did.
That's a perfect entree into a question from Great Filibuster.
Okay.
Coach Jay, does volume help you avoid fakeouts? The ones where the price will spike one way and then reverse on the next candle. If it does, can you show us how?
Yes. So a couple of things we're going to frame out here. Frame out this news candle because we did have the jobless claims news. So just want to identify where that is. The high of that candle 55.33, low of the candle 55.16. Filibuster, kind of what you've been talking, the question you asked, right? We had a call with the VIPs a little earlier today, and we framed out this candle here, and you guys can see why I framed that one out. Kind of looked like it set the low for the day. Pretty high volume outside of the open. Actually, more volume in this candle than we had in the opening 3-minute candle, which I thought was a really interesting area. The way I'm reading this is this candle established a range. We're going into a lower volume time. Once we're trading inside this range, I'm looking for price action and volume. And I think if anyone was in the VIP class, you guys know we talked about it. We're looking for around 15,000 contracts on a 3-minute candle. This is for the ES. Looking for 15,000 contracts for this range to break. So the first thing you're going to get is price action, right? That's the clearest thing to see, where we have price going higher, and some of us might look at this and say, oh, wow, the buyers are pushing this higher. The reason I said 15,000, and I'll put a line on this, if we look at the candles that actually moved price, volume was around 15K or higher, right? I just put a blue line on this volume chart down here. Let's make it a different color so we can actually see what's going on. We'll make it red. The candles that actually moved price were above 15K. When we started to consolidate, everything is below that 15K. So this lack of volume is going to, the way I'm reading that is a lack of confidence in a move, right? And until we get something above that or near it or building up towards it, then I can't trust any price action. So what I did was I took a short right at the high of this range because volume looked like it was picking up, price action looked like it was going, but there weren't enough convinced buyers at this time for me to say that, this was a breakout. So I'm going to fade the extremes, trade it like a range bound market. Same thing at the lows. This is where I'm getting out of my trade. Could have did the reverse challenge and just went the other way because the same story. We didn't have enough volume at the lows of this range to break through. Now let's watch what happens when volume starts to increase, and we didn't get exactly that 15K until we were out of the range, but we see it start to build, right? So we see volume kind of waxing and just gaining momentum, and then we break that range. At this point, it's no longer a range bound market because we're breaking out, at least not this range, right? Now, maybe we need to zoom out and we see the higher time frame ranges up here. But once I get that volume confirmation, that's enough to tell me that this trade idea is no longer valid. So hopefully that answers your question. That helps me. This I would consider a fake out, right? Because a lot of this might be looking at this like, hey, this is a breakout of this range. Unless there's volume behind it, I don't trust it. Coach, are you on mute by any chance?
Yes, I am. There's another
$5
in the. Oh man, yeah, I did that.
All good.
So, waiting for the close, like that's a classic wick, right?
Right.
It's just a price.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't mean anything, but once it got over it and closed above it, then we got a little bit of action.
Right. I want to put on, let me see if I could put on these trade executions real quick because I'll show you guys. I actually took the short twice. I took the short twice, and the second one was maybe a little preemptive. Let's see if it actually puts them up there. And they're all blue, so hopefully you can kind of see them. But this was the trade initially, and then this was the second one. But on this second one, I can't say, hey, this is a range bound trade and I'm just going to stick with it. I have to get out of the trade because the market showed me that it's no longer respecting this range. Eventually, we did come back into it and trade around that range. But on this, for this idea, this trade is broken. Now we got to look at the higher time frame ranges and back to some of the higher volume areas that we traded before. But great question. Great question. Coach, anything else on the ES for today? Or we want to move on to the Nasdaq?
Let's move on to the Nasdaq.
All right.
Everybody's favorite.
And I see a question from Pac-Man Bull. Isn't volume more of a lagging indicator? When you notice volume increases, it's too late to trade. I'm actually going to say, and maybe I'm biased because I'm a volume analyst, I think volume is actually the most up-to-date indicator that there is. It's probably the most real-time indicator that I could think of, because depending on how you read the volume, right? I always have a time and sales up, so I'm watching the volume print as it's happening. I'm reading the orders in real time. Now, I think what's important is your interpretation of the information when it comes in, right? Yes, I see this ton of volume. What does it mean and what are they trying to do? I think that's how you want to build the puzzle around volume. But for me, I would say it's the most real-time indicator. What do you think about that, Coach? I'm biased. Everything I say is volume. So, but what do you think about that?
I think it's the most present. It's not an indicator.
Mm.
And now you can't. Why I say it's in the present.
Yeah.
And it can be subjective,
Mm-hmm.
but that's in our own mind.
Right.
Volume is volume. And you can't project it. When it happens, then you can start analyzing, and then you get better at what volume is more important.
Yep.
To me, the most important volume time is the open. Whatever opening range you decide to take is the most important. So, from my days from being a pit trader or a floor trader to being off the floor, volume in the pit was, I measured it by the sound of the pit.
Yeah.
Busy pit, is loud because things are being done. Slow pit, low volume, but we didn't have measured volume until the next morning. So at that point, that's why I struggled early when trading off the floor. But spot on what Coach said. I think it's the most present data that we're going to get.
100%.
Volume moves prices.
And
Prices don't move volume.
And this is one of those topics in trading that either someone's going to agree with you or completely disagree with you, right? And that's okay. Everyone is going to look at the markets in a different way. Trading made easy. I don't think anyone speaking to you right now is clueless at all. But who put it in there? His Royal Trade said volume is a precursor. It's funny though that you say that. The group that I learned how to read volume from was called Ahead of the Charts, and the reason he named his group that was because he would read the volume first and then make an assumption about what the chart was going to do. One of the classes he actually did with us was we read the volume first and then draw the chart in Microsoft Paint based on the volume patterns that we saw, and then we would try to match up the price action to the volume that we read. So that volume is a precursor. I love that. I would agree with you, right? Because if you identify a buyer in the market, I can almost make an assumption about, hey, they're buying this much. What are they buying that for, right? Where's a potential? If I bought 1,000 contracts, where would a potential target be for me on those 1,000 contracts? And I could almost, if I get in a position with that person, I could trade until I see them get out. And that's the way we traded stocks a lot of the time. So I really love that. Again, we're not going to turn this into a volume class. I think we talk about it enough, but yeah. Nasdaq, coach.
Nasdaq, very much like the S&P today.
Very much so.
Actually, I think it's a little. Oh wow. Yeah, that's a hard market right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, outside of this
For me.
Me too. Me too. And you know, and the reason I would say this is a hard market where I'm improving at being a range bound trader as well. The Nasdaq just doesn't respect ranges as well, right? Where those extensions are just a lot sharper in the Nasdaq, right? Where you might see a range, it might blow past that range by 20 points before it accepts back into it. Again, I've been moving my trading to trade some slower markets, maybe ES. We talked about trading the treasuries. This is difficult. This is difficult. I think, like you said, much like the ES, it's the same read. Again, this is this weekly VWAP. We checked above it and couldn't hold, but the difference here is this move above this anchored VWAP is $1,000 on a one lot before the market accepts back in it. So how do you trade the Nasdaq? Can you trade it at the level and say, hey, this is my level, I'm going to short it? Or do you wait for it to come back and confirm that that level is going to hold? I feel like you almost have to do the latter, right? Let it confirm the level and then trade. Maybe you sacrifice trade location, but you don't get a move like this where you were short initially. The market was going in your favor. You were looking for something lower here, but then it pops right back up, 40 points above your entry. And I don't know how many of us are trading with stops that wide, especially with minis. With micros, maybe a different story, coach.
Yeah, that's why I like micros.
Yep.
And we've gone through this. I'll do you have to trade your equity, not the market.
For sure.
You have to, or a better well put is you have to match the equity in your account to the volatility of the market you're trading. You could have
100%.
a 40-point stop and trade the mini, but you better have cash, $50,000 or more.
Right.
Or you can go have 2,000 and do micros. It's all in line. And your personality. Can you take 40-point risk? I can if I measure it right.
Right.
If I don't measure it right, no matter how much I think I can, It's not going to work, right?
Not at all.
It's, so one of the tricks is position sizing. It's not, I shouldn't say a trick. One of the imperatives in risk is matching your position size to your equity.
Yep. You cannot fit the market into your account. It's like one of those puzzle
Another
pieces, right?
great little gem there.
It's like you're trying to fit the square into the circle. It doesn't work. The market is not going to fit
Right.
your account. You got to make your account fit the market.
And sometimes we can get away with it. When in my younger days, I got away with it. I thought it was a great trading until it went the other way, and I didn't know what to do except for hold on until I blew out.
Right.
Then I had to admit I was wrong because I didn't have any more capital. So position sizing.
Most important. Most important. Here we go with the Nasdaq again, range bound market. Got the blue framed out here. This is our jobless claims print. And again, just, these news candles proving that they present opportunities. Opportunities to do what? That's up to your trading style and how you manage your risk. But we can kind of see it here, right? We have I'll frame out the New York session open, which is this candle right here. And from the start, Coach, it looked like it was going to rally. Really nice. We've seen this, first 3 minutes, VWAP anchored to that opening range. And Coach, you called this one out when we were really pointing these out. Where's that VWAP?
Right there on the open.
Yep.
So it was, and I'm really like that trade.
Yeah.
We have this debate, what don't trade the first half hour, don't trade the first 10 minutes.
If it looks like that,
it looks like that, and you can frame that out, it's worth it.
yeah.
I had some other things with my pivot that worked with it.
Okay.
Gave me another check.
Nice.
What I have to get better at, because I'm a better swing trader.
Yeah.
And day trading, you have to be much more disciplined on your exit. And I'm not just stuck I can take losses. I have no problem with that. Where I can struggle in the time frame is I get greedy.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yep.
Is to be able to accept maybe 1-2 ATRs done.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Coach. Something, and you said you're a swing trader, so you might be getting, a full month's move on a trade, right? But with the day trade and the time parameters that we have to trade in, something that we haven't talked about in a little while, but is the daily ATR, right? Where making that adjustment and thinking with two different brains, right? Where, okay, if I see 100 points in the Nasdaq, I might have just taken 30% of the full range of the day, high to low, right? And it's a different brain to think with because you do have to cut yourself off, at the end of it.
I heard Captain say that one time on Topstep TV. He called it responsible growth mindset.
Hmm.
And that really is something. It's sometimes that responsible growth mindset. In other words, just don't be greedy. If you could get 2 ATRs or like he's 40 handles,
Yep.
take it. It's your job. It's a day trade. So that one was a great trade this morning.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this one is a scary one to take. And if you guys are hearing anything that we say as far as setups go, and you're going to try it in a practice account. But what I really like about this, Coach, especially if we leaned on hey, let the market settle and maybe take a trade after this, is this pullback here. Right, this pullback to VWAP where we've gotten a confirmation now that volume has left the range, price has left the range, and we got a pullback to retest that volume and it held. Right, and this you have to be patient for. You're waiting 18 minutes to trade on a market that just moved up 150 points, and you might feel like you're late to the move. But that's when I think it's important to have potential areas for where you think the market can trade, But this pullback here and hold of a VWAP, to me, that's a beautiful trade if you miss this initial one. And
And
go ahead.
can you get 40 points out of that, Coach?
Oh, absolutely.
And there it is.
You can go 40
That's a
points before
mindset.
you even make the daily high again, right? Like if I took this trade here, and I'm just thinking about the way I would think, because yes, we can see the market went up another, 200 points. If I took this trade here, my conservative price target would be not even at these highs. I think, like you said, Coach, 40 points, conservative. If it gives me more, it gives me more. But the market showed me up here that it rejected at these prices. So if I'm buying what is now the lows of this move, I can't personally, I can't have a price target much higher than this if the market showed me a rejection. Conservatively, the extreme price target can be higher, but I still need to watch the market reaction here. And like you're saying, before we even get there, that's 40 points. That could be your whole day.
Yeah. It's just, and that's something I personally, and for a lot of, I need to adjust to on day trading.
Mm.
Especially when if I look at 4 different markets, I see that kind of setup. It's a higher percentage. I have to accept that singles and doubles win the game,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
If you're always swinging for home runs, it feels great. Oh, you can hit a home run with no one on base. It's 1 run.
That's a great point.
Right?
It's a great point.
The more I trade, I got away from it because I'm a basketball coach, but I love if there's any sport that really resembles trading, it's baseball.
For sure.
I mean, so why I get back to that is, yeah, 40, 60 points in the Nasdaq is good money.
Everything else is bonus
We,
money.
we talk about this respecting the money.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't respect that money,
Right.
and especially in day trading, it'll catch up to us.
Coach, what I really love about what you're saying, and again, this is kind of just, we kind of started this segment about how I learned how to trade a little bit, but, he would say exactly that, right? If you could figure out how to make, and we were trading stocks at the time, and we'll use your same example. He said, if you could figure out how to make 50 cents out of a stock, you can make a ton of money because all you have to do is identify that 50-cent setup and add size to it when you're ready. If you can identify a 40-point trade in the NASDAQ, and do it consistently where you say, hey, to a high probability, this setup has shown me that it presents 40 points to me. I don't care about the other 300 points that the market trades. And I don't have to measure that, right? I could measure, hey, this is one of those setups that presents 40 points. If and when I'm ready to scale up and make more money, all I do is add another contract once I can accept that risk. And the setup never changes. I feel like a lot of time we try to figure out market direction and where exactly it's going, and I think it's important to have that context. But like you said, we're day trading. Identify a setup that presents high yield to you and take it when it presents itself.
Yeah, and it presented on both sides of the market.
Oh yeah, it was all over the place.
And that's I mean, exhausted, got back under VWAP, went back to the other side, bounced. And like we said, it ended up being a violently unchanged day.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Going
discipline.
into tomorrow, I expect this range until NFP. NFP is going to tell the story. I don't even want to try to predict what's going to happen because that news is going to dictate the rest of the day. So I'm going to do the same thing, frame out that candle, see the highs and the lows of it, maybe attach a VWAP to it and see how the market reacts to it. If we, again, zoom back out to what we had, the last NFP, we anchored a VWAP there, and for a month, the market went straight up. So it is going to be an important number for sure.
That number is going we're still above it.
Yep.
And if we see a spike down and a recovery, that could be an opportunity. So
yep.
Bottom line, especially for equities, and by the way, NFP will affect everything
Everything
except for grains, hogs. Man, that doesn't care about it. cattle,
Right.
but anything financial attached to it is going to be affected. It's become the number. And don't trade in front of it.
Yeah. We got a question from Slip Kid before we move on. And Coach, I want to go to, would you rather crude or gold? I know you traded both.
Crude next.
Crude next. All right, cool. We got a question from Slip Kid. Do you distinguish between big volume for price movement versus big exhaustion volume, which might signal the end of a move? Absolutely. I told you guys I use delta indicators, and I'm waiting for the delta indicators to be part of Topstep X, and they are on the roadmap. But where the volume comes in relation to the move is important, right? Especially for these volume candles. I'm gonna take all the drawings off for now, but especially for these volume candles where we're not getting the kind of inner workings, if you will, of that. If I see heavy buying volume at the high of what looks like a trend up, right? And I'm just calling this buying volume because the candle closed higher than it opened. That is a signal to maybe potential exhaustion because some of that volume could be sell side, right? So what I want to watch in this case is the candles that come after it, right? And we talked about this yesterday, the sustainability of this volume. This candle right here at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 9 Central, was higher volume than the open. If I just look at volume patterns, how sustainable is it to have consecutive volume candles that high, right? And when I say consecutive, sustainable, 3, 4, 5 candles of similar volume, right? We can see it. We made this high on high volume. Volume is immediately decreasing after that, right? So there's no initial immediate follow through. Does that mean the move is over? It doesn't, but that means there's potential because this volume looks like it's starting to get rejected and we can see it. And we made that second high. Again, volume is increasing, nowhere near as much as we saw in this huge candle here. And again, this is kind of just how the Nasdaq works. It gave a second attempt at it. But again, on this push up, we're not seeing that volume increase, right? As price is increasing, volume should be sustainably increasing, and it wasn't. A little different here, and again, this is high volume at the low of this move. We want to watch for potential follow through. This one happened at 10 a.m. Central Time, where we know we might be moving into that lunch, kind of London close. And it's not just a one size fits all, though. I think the most important thing I'm going to do, and Coach, we've talked about this a ton of times. You got the volume, frame it out first. If this looks like exhaustion to you, and let's say you wanted to take a long, right? Because we've seen this a lot, right? Where we get the candle that looks like exhaustion, and then you want to fade that move, right? Because a lot of times, if it really does set the low for the day, that's your best trade location. Let's say that was the case, and we see the market this way. We see heavy volume coming down to where we opened the markets, and I wanted to take a long initially. Decent idea so far, right? Coach, there's your 40-point trade right there.
There. There's a lot of 40-point trades, and I've been noticing that, and just because like I said, I'm more comfortable on a swing trade, but I think if you get good at day trading, why not do both?
Yeah.
It's a different mindset, but 40 points is okay. That's $800 on a mini. That's $400 on a micro.
The 5 micros, right?
Excuse me, 5 micros.
That's a great day.
Someone offered you a job to pay you $400 a day. That's $2,000. That's $100,000.
Yep.
A year.
It's a great salary.
Now, and not only that, you can, and it's not and this is without the losing days.
Right.
But if you can average 400, 300, and build the account where, okay, I've doubled the size of my account, I can make that a mini.
Yep. Compounding.
That is compounding, which is Warren Buffett says the greatest thing that was ever
The greatest world
invented.
wonder, right?
Yeah, the greatest world wonder. It's about, and when we talked, it's about respecting the opportunity and respecting the money.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guilty of it when I day trade. Like, oh man, this is the one I could.
Oh yeah.
And that happens 20% of the time, but that other 80% of the time is heartache.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the time frame you're trading in, what the opportunity is, helps you have a mindset that is disciplined and not greedy. I think a lot of the there's fear and greed.
Yep.
Which one is it? The one you have to
It's one of them.
conquer.
Yeah.
It's one of them, right?
It is definitely one
To
of them.
me, right now, it's greed in the day time frame. So, yeah, 40 points. Not bad.
40 points in 6 minutes. $400 in 6 minutes is not a lot of jobs in the world that's going to pay you that kind of rate. And again, like Coach said, there is the potential to lose as well. And then just to finish off that volume question, right, where that might look like exhaustion, and you get two candles in the opposite direction, maybe you want to take this as a long. What's really important here is to assess the volume that's coming in after this rejection, right? I'm saying that this may be a potential long. There's other short time frame traders that are going to think the same thing and jump in on this trade. When the market starts to get back up to where that selling came in, if that buying stops, guess what? The move might be over. One of the trades we really love looking at, Coach, is a candle close outside of here, which then means that these sellers would be trapped. And now we're looking for a long because we got the confirmation that the market's done trading these prices. We didn't get that here. We got a rejection. So this here is a beautiful short entry where I can limit my risk right above where that volume came in, right? Because I know the sellers created this. If we trade back up to their prices, the way I look at this is there are some sellers down here as well at 18,950. If I'm selling up here, I get a better short than the traders that got in down here. Now, worst case scenario, maybe we trade back down to their prices and I made 40 points, but they initiated this volume. So if they're ready to make money on that position, then we get something like this. And now I'm making money with them instead of to their position. And there you go for a 100-point trade. So I think that I personally think there's a lot of reads to be made from volume, and I'll keep trying to share them. But really good question on that exhaustion because it's important to try to identify. Delta makes it 1,000 times easier. I'll say that straight up, and it is on the roadmap where you almost don't even have to guess about what's happening. It's just showing you.
Right.
You said Crude, Coach?
We should move on to Crude. Yeah.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes left.
Oh, this goes fast.
It goes by.
Fun. I hope you're having fun. Keep giving us your questions.
And if you're having fun, hit that thumbs up button. Coach.
Oh, yes. Smash it, please.
Crude oil. I'll let you take this one. I know you were looking at this today.
Can you bring up the half-hour chart?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then we have, okay, so first thing I'm looking for is we're under the 200 bar moving average. All right. I want to take sells.
Yep.
So in this case, we had this rally. All right. And how did you get that range? It was from another day. Keep it up there because
yes.
I'm going to give you a level. Is the pivot. The pivot, excuse me, my first resistance I had on my daily levels.
Mm-hmm.
First resistance was 70.83.
So, wow. Shameless plug for those Topstep daily levels. Myself, Coach Paul, Coach Ray, Coach Vince, Coach Jack, and of course our senior performance coach Hogue. Every day putting levels up on the Topstep daily levels site. I'm going to copy and paste a. Give me 1 second. Paste the link for that. Put that in there 3 times. These are not suggestions to take trades, but just areas of interest that we think the market can potentially trade to. And Coach Paul said 70.83 and the high of the day in Crude. Coach, I mean, you're good, but you're not that good. The high was 70.82.
So, and by the way, I didn't sell it. Here's
Okay,
another thing is, we're talking about day trading. I wouldn't have got filled, would I? If I
right.
had an 82 offer, I would not have gotten filled.
Correct.
That's the hardest one.
Yep.
I like market if touched, but I don't want to go into that discussion right now. But I will show you this. I will say this.
Yeah.
We reached that, and it looked like it was going to go gangbusters. There was talk about production,
Yeah.
cutting off production. It was off there, and longs were in control.
For
Now,
sure.
I wasn't looking to sell it. I would say a failure of that level. One of the first, and in this time frame, if it breaks the low of the candle that made that high, it's 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 I consider that a failure. And
Gotcha.
I saw that a little late, but then we got below the 20 bar moving average, and by the way, and look what happened.
Yep.
First of all, all those buyers, they were, and it happened quickly, they were all underwater.
Yep.
And then we had a collapse down through the pivot of 69.83.
Nice.
And here's another thing: in crude, that was that was worth 50 points, $500.
Taking your piece of the middle, piece of the pie.
Get your, I will go with this. Well, like I said, I worked with Peter Stottlemyre, and my son mentored with him in high school, and then
Okay.
he had to do his quarterly report on his mentorship. So Pete made him go to the trading floor and ask 25 traders, some pretty big traders, and ask them why buy low, sell high doesn't work. It was,
Wow.
it was brutal. Some of the reactions that we get were as you imagine. And why I say that here, buy low. Okay, I could have tried to sell the high, would have missed it. But I
Yep.
think, especially in day trading, where do they fail? Especially under the 200 bar moving average.
Yeah.
So it reached that, and then it failed. I like when it fails, when it breaks. I'd love for you to do a volume analysis at that point with a 3-minute. I have a feeling there was a large volume bar that got violated.
Let's
That's my
see.
guess.
And we had D saying that she shorted it as well. On
Yeah.
the push up here, and then the failed upside auction back into the initial balance. Again, initial balance first hour of trade. But yeah, so there's this candle here, right, which is high volume. This is right at 9 central. That one was kind of late, but again, it doesn't matter because if we're looking for what the setup says, we don't have to catch the highs and the lows, right? Highs and lows aren't meant for us. They're meant for market makers. We don't get to choose highs and lows when they happen. Um, Even if you waited, coach. So if you want to say, I'm going to take a trade when the high volume candle fails, you missed out on almost a dollar move. But after that, the candle that closes outside of that, yes, there was a little bit of a drawdown. And, depending on how tight you keep your stops, it's less than 20 ticks. After that, there is another 80 tick trade, 80 tick move available for you. If you can take 50% of that, it's $400 based on a repeated setup that we've seen, right? Volume failed. Yes, you missed the high, but the high wasn't meant for you. Find where a
Yeah.
repeatable setup is for you. And, there are some higher as well. Like you said, you could take the candle that made the high and failed. There wasn't a ton of volume there, but once this one comes in and we see it pick up, maybe that's your opportunity.
Yeah. It's like, some of the things is to see where the buyers or the sellers fail
Yeah.
and take advantage of it with a measured risk. And that's what that means. Buy low, sell high doesn't work. And that's what that's meant to show.
Mm.
Our job, by the way, like I said, you can't sell, like Coach just said, it's selling the high. You're not going to get filled. If you had this magic formula
Right.
and you said, oh, well, I'm going to sell the high, well, they're not letting you in. And if you want to do it for size, it's not even going to get there,
That's
right?
such a great point. That's such a great point, right? We all do the trader math, the measurement. Oh, if I just sold 50 contracts right at that high, I would have made $200,000. Like, except for if this was a real market, you're not even getting 50 filled. You might get two.
Right. So, what is, and part of this is a learning process, and maybe it's designed to help you get a mindset.
Yep.
If you get frustrated, and by the way, this isn't foolproof,
No, not at all.
but it's a mindset of, oh, this is a good place that I can take good risk.
Hmm.
I like those, especially day trading, where it's failure, because
Yeah.
the market, and we talk about return to the mean. One of the best ways to return to the mean is see where it fails on the front, on the edges,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Instead of predicting it, is let them. you know,
Yeah.
eh, you're not the foot soldier. You're the general. And generals don't fight the battle. So I thought this was a great example.
For sure.
Now, this happens in different markets. So crude oils, we talked about, what was it, 70.83 once again,
Hmm.
and it closed back under 70
Second
for
time.
how many days in a row now? It's crude is feeling a lot of pressure.
Yep. And the supply
S-
headlines aren't doing much for gaining traction, right? It's a quick spike move, but it's not changing the sentiment right now of this market. Again, we can zoom out to the higher time frame. It looks like we are at this demand area, but buyers aren't getting a whole lot right now.
and I tell you what, it almost seems like these headlines are designed for someone to dump some inventory.
Hmm.
It's just- not not saying
Yep,
that happened, but it has that flavor.
for sure.
So, boy, time is flying here.
We got
Um,
7 minutes left, Coach. I want to pull up gold real quick. Oh,
mhm.
and just the last thing, these weird anomalies. Why was there a volume spike at 6:18 a.m. Central Time in crude? I have no idea.
that,
It meant something
that
to
was
someone.
probably when the news came up.
Right. It meant something to someone. Let's go over to gold. Coach, you had a reaction to gold yesterday when you saw a pattern. Just want to ask about that, what you were seeing. Uh, if you guys remember, Coach saw that pattern. He said, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." You saw something that you liked. What was that, Coach?
It was the 200 bar moving average that we were moving, and you had the VWAPs.
Yes, those were anchored to PPI, CPI from last month. So I will anchor those again. Uh, green is going to be PPI, and red is going to be CPI. Oh, and that was another Rich Homie Quan reference, if anyone caught that. For those keeping track. Go ahead, Coach.
Wow. Wow, man, there it is. As we talked, how many times did we? It was how many times did we hit that VWAP in the last week? 3, 4 times
Yep.
until, okay, there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus we've been under the 200-day bar moving average.
Hmm.
Look what happened when we got over the red VWAP and over the 200, and by the way, not just price, it closed.
Right. Yeah. Important
It's important
because
because
it's been a resistance so far.
right, and that's decision. This is price and time.
Right.
um Before, it didn't spend any time. It was rejected immediately. This time it closed above, got above the first VWAP, and look at it. Just what was that rally? That was like $20, $15.
Yeah, all I know is I logged on to watch the London Open with D, and she was long Crude, and I'm just like, it's the setup that we talked about. And I know D saw it her own way as well. Just a really nice opportunity, right?
Well,
Gold. Sorry.
yeah.
Again, coach, like I said, I've been working with you for a year. That reaction that you had, again, this is not a signals class. Nothing we do is for a, trade entry. It was like a collision course. Like, yes, this is going to happen, and we don't know anything for sure. But there are some setups that are higher probability than others. And I love what you said, coach. It's not just a blind buy. Give it the chance to close, because once it does, there's room.
Yeah, there's an algorithm that looked at that. What time did that happen?
This was so the close above the 200 was at 12:30 Central, and then the close above the
Okay.
VWAP, the first one was at 1 Central, and then it's pretty much London opened and they bought it.
Yeah, and that to me right now is the goal looks like if we go on to like a daily or an hourly, um, let's let's just look at a daily.
Where's Nick with his air horns?
Get the air horn ready. Actually, yeah,
Yeah,
that was the spike.
that's what it looks like. And then going into NFP tomorrow, you just said it. That news is going to affect every market that has anything to do with financials. And again, not a signal, not a call out. We're not saying anything is going to happen, but what better catalyst to push us above all-time highs than the major number for the week? So really interesting.
Yeah, I really like gold.
Yep. I'll go back to that 30 for a second, and we talk about this 20 and 50 moving average. They're back above the 200 for the first time. I don't know where they just went, but here we go. Reconnect there. Where did my averages go? Come on.
They're shy.
I think we might be into that API hour where things refresh. But the 20 and the 50 crossed back above the 200 moving average for the first time in 5 days, which means that we're starting to trend up. And then there was also, coach, that separation between them that we've seen, right? When we get that clear distinction between the 20 and the 50, we start to see the market hold that 20. That's what it looks like it's starting to do on the 30-minute chart. So it looks really good.
Yeah, it's trading very well.
Yeah,
From a technical point of view.
for sure.
And
Definitely.
I'm a technician.
Same here. Same here.
And I played one on TopstepTV also.
The news is going to expedite the move. The markets are still going to trade level to level. I believe that as well. We are almost at the hour. I want to thank everyone again for joining us. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Coach, you got anything before we go? I'm going to check my notes to see if I'm missing anything. But anything you got before we go, Coach?
Yeah. Two things to review what we talked about today. Don't be greedy. At least that's the one thing I really have to work on. And if you want to survive and trade well, don't trade in front of NFP.
For sure.
I just let the people that have to be in the market make the first move.
Follow them.
Don't take a deep breath. What was that, coach?
What did I even say? Damn.
Give it breathing room.
Give it breathing room. There you go. I got to rewatch that.
Instead of and that's what I highly suggest, and then go from there. That's all what I would talk about coming in an NFP.
Awesome. D says, how to trade NFP. Take a short walk and keep walking. That's a great point.
That too.
Before we go, just a reminder to everyone, the segment that we had with Linda Rashke, which was on Tuesday, is on its own segment, its own clipped out video on the Topstep YouTube. If you haven't seen it already, I would highly suggest going and watching that. Just a ton of experience and what I really got from that, coach, and it's the same thing I get from reading the book about anchored VWAP. It's the amount of conviction in the detail that's on her screen, right? There was a lot going on her screen. I'll be the first to admit it, but she had a clear distinction for everything that was there, right? And there was a reason for everything there, which I think is really important, where we all want to get to in our trading, right? There's not a question about her strategy. Extremely confident in it, and of course that confidence led to all the success that she's had in her career. So if you haven't seen that, I would highly suggest going back and watching that. And it is on the Topstep YouTube page. And then last thing, Coach Dakota. Next week, the Topstep TV team is doing a little retreat. They're going to get away, and they gave the keys to the house to Dakota. So he is going to be doing a Topstep TV takeover Wednesday through Friday of next week. I think we'll have a couple of guest appearances on there as well, but a Coach Dakota takeover for next week on Topstep TV. We're not done with programming. Coach Paul and I are done here, but Coach Ray and Coach Vince are doing classes in Discord. If you haven't joined those, I would highly suggest doing so. Coach Ray starts at 6 p.m. Central, Coach Vince at 7, and then of course Dakota at 7:30 on Slow Markets on YouTube. Go ahead, Coach.
I double that. Check them out. They're very good and then give you great insight.
If anyone's paying attention, Coach Vince has been calling out levels in the Topstep TV YouTube chat. Coach Vince. That man is good at what he does. Really good at what he does. So I would highly suggest looking at the markets that way. And then, of course, we have D with the London Open. Not tonight, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is Friday. But D does do that every Monday through Thursday at 3:30 Central Time. And D, thank you for hanging out. I know it's late for you over there, but thanks for hanging out as always.
She's still up?
D's still up. I don't know how she does it, Coach.
Oh, well, glad to have you watching. She's very, very good.
Very good at what she does.
If you haven't watched her, I highly suggest whenever you get a chance.
For sure.
Wow. Warrior.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you haven't, on the way out, make sure you hit that like button. Tell your friends and family to subscribe. And Coach Paul and I will see you tomorrow. I will be on Fast Markets tomorrow with Dakota, hopefully getting some trades in that house account, but not going to force anything. We will see what comes to us. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your night, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
Good night.